Supervisor. Sorry about that. Supervisor Bredefield.
Here.
Supervisor Chavez. Supervisor Magsic.
Here.
Supervisor Pacheco.
Here.
Supervisor Mendez.
Here.
All present. Thank you.
Okay, welcome to the March 25th meeting of the Board of Supervisors. We will begin with the invocation and flag salute. The invocation will be led by District 3. After the invocation, stay standing for the flag salute.
I'd like to invite Pastor Joe White up to lead us in the invocation. Thank you, Pastor.
Let's pray. Lord God, thank you for each of our representatives here today. In this new chapter, you've given the responsibility to them. And pray that they would be peace and well-being of our great county. Lord, each of our districts, representing so many diverse residents, are supported by the decisions made here today. And I pray that we would govern today for our collective good. We want to also thank you for our neighbors in the fields today. Thank you for their hard work. Thank you for our 6,000 square miles that we're responsible for, every business, every home, every unincorporated area in our region. Thank you for the DNA of perseverance that you've given this board and these residents. I pray that you would govern us today. That Jesus, you would fill us with hope today as we govern. That we might remember that you love this place and you're healing this place through the decisions we make today. In your name we pray. Amen.
Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, agendas are on the back table for anyone wanting to follow along. Oh, I wonder if it works. Does this work? Yeah.
It works.
Item number 1, approve agenda.
I'll move for approval of the agenda.
Second.
Okay. All in favor is going to say an aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
We now move to item number 2, approve consent agenda item numbers 24 through 44. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff has brought to our attention that item 40, the number of pages that are on file with the clerk, the attachment out of the 35 pages, there was about 5 pages that was distorted. So I'm handing out a revised attachment that's not distorted. That's for item 40.
Okay, is there anyone on the board that wants to take anything off of consent?
Yes, just one for discussion 29.
29. Anyone else? Does anyone in the public want to take anything off of consent? Hearing none, I'll accept the motion. Got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? All in favor, so I say an aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. When do you want to hear 29?
29 can follow item 5 if you are okay with that.
Sure.
We will now take up item 3 under Board of Supervisors, presentation of retirement plaque to Victoria Yvonne Banks, Department of Social Services, 19 years of service.
Okay.
And, oh, there we go. That'll help. All right. So I'm going to hand this over to Sean Pavandi, who's our manager in child welfare. But before that, I want to take a moment to steal his thunder and talk a little bit about Victoria. So I met Victoria. We have about 450 social workers, and I don't have a privilege of knowing every single one of them. But Victoria and I met a couple of years ago talking about a quality parenting initiative in a conference. And while I remember her from those conversations about how to improve kin care for our kids and experience for our youth in foster care, a few months I invite her during those conversations to come to my office with any recommendations and suggestions. And a few months later, she walks in talking about asking for support for our social workers. So I asked her, well, what does that look like? And Victoria actually had drawings and plans and proposals to implement meditation rooms in our department to support social workers. I appreciate the thoughtfulness, willing up to roll up her sleeves and actually not only provide a suggestion, but actually work on it. We have them today. So she made a lasting impact in our department. They're not quite as elaborate as you drew, but we have them today that I really appreciate Victoria for not only supporting our kids, supporting our foster parents and youth in care, but also really being a voice for our fellow social workers. So sorry, Sean, but I had to share a few things. So I'm going to hand it over to Sean to celebrate Victoria's retirement.
All right, good morning. I'm Sean Pivandi. I'm Child Welfare Division Chief. It's an honor to be here today to celebrate Victoria Banks' 19.42 years of service with the Department of Social Services. Victoria began her career with the County of Fresno on July 18, 2005, as an office assistant in our Employment and Temporary Assistance Program. On January 2, 2006, she became a social worker aide and held that assignment for a brief moment before transitioning to an eligibility worker on February 27, 2006. She was an eligibility worker for 2 years. On January 28, 2008, Victoria became a social worker and joined the Foster Parent Resource Unit, where she helped locate placement for our minors. From January 2008 to November 2022, Victoria held different assignments: family unification, permanency plan, which is why I met her, child-specific coordinator, STRTP liaison, resource family support, as a social worker providing services to promote the safety, permanency, and well-being of our clients. On November 14, 2022, Victoria became a social work supervisor and led one of our resource family approval units till her retirement on December 14, 2024. As a supervisor, she modeled teaming for our staff by encouraging them to collaborate and consult with case management teams. She would take what she called field trips by having in-person conversations with case management teams to discuss barriers, issues, concerns, or any other related matters regarding resource families. Also, Victoria accompanied her staff to CFTs and provided consultation and mentoring. In addition, she would have her new staff shadow social workers to improve their partnership and broaden their knowledge of the different task areas in child welfare. Furthermore, Victoria promoted the importance of staff morale and coordinated activities for her division and unit. She coordinated potlucks, desserts, treats, morale, and celebration activities. In addition, she was involved in setting up the self-care rooms for DSS staff and promoted that for her team and division. What made Victoria effective in her role was her understanding of the importance of relationships we form with our peers, management, as well as community we serve. Victoria had a way of making people feel they mattered. She is kind, respectful, professional, and she had a positive interaction with the general public, clients, consumers, as well as department staff. Victoria will forever be known for her positive attitude, being dependable, hardworking, team player, and being a support to her community. On this day, the Child Welfare Branch would like to congratulate Victoria Banks for all she has given to the department and community. Congratulations and thank you, Victoria. Floor is yours.
I wasn't planning to say anything, and for those who know me know that I talk a lot, so I'm just going to say thank you so much. DSS has been the reason that I've been able to accomplish so much. My son is here, my husband, my mother, my sister. My sister is the reason I started with DSS. She told me I wasn't doing very much at the time in 2005. She said, you have to do something. So I moved from Los Angeles to Fresno, and I've been here ever since. So my son has really been a champion through all of these years of me working with DSS. I used to take him back in the day when we could take our children to the office with us. He would sit there with me while I was working overtime, and he's just been amazing. Now my husband has had to listen to all of the things that we talk about when we work for a large agency. My family has just been here for me. So I want to thank everyone, and I'm grateful for my experience with DSS. It wasn't always amazing. I did have ups and downs, but now that I am complete with that part of my life, I'm very thankful to have had it. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Anyone on the board want to talk?
Just Ms. Banks, thank you so much for your almost 20 years of service, and I like how your supervisor quantified it 19.24, like he was counting for some reason. But I do want to thank you for the work that you've been doing, and it's really inspiring to see our Fresno County family go from, starting at the grassroots level and work their way up, and that's really what it's all about. But I know the work that you do in those buildings, more importantly with those families, makes a big difference in our community. I just wanted to publicly thank you, and thank you to your family. Thank you for sharing her for 19.24 years. But you guys get her back now for a little while. So thank you for that.
Anyone else? Thank you. I want to thank your enthusiasm. I can see you're a very enthusiastic person. So why don't you come up, have all your family come up. Yeah.
Which one?
We now move to item number 4 under the Board of Supervisors, retirement plaque, presentation of retirement plaque to John Sims, Sheriff's Department, 31 years of service.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I am Ryan Hushaw, Assistant Sheriff, here on behalf of Sheriff John Zanoni, who is out of town this morning. So I have the pleasure of introducing our recent retiree, Deputy Sheriff John Sims, who I was fortunate enough to work several years on the beat with. Some good memories there. So John graduated the Fresno Police Academy in 1988, and though he was immediately hired by the Reno Police Department, he felt a strong desire to return to his community in Fresno and be closer to his family. In 1993, John was hired by Fresno County Probation, where he served as a supervising senior group counselor working inside of Juvenile Hall, helping troubled youth and encouraging them to leave their gangs behind. In 2000, John transferred to the Fresno County Sheriff's Office, where he was able to make a lasting impact in the communities to which he was assigned. Some of his key assignments included serving as a school resource officer, working with children to avoid gangs and drugs, and working in the boating enforcement unit, where he made numerous rescues along Fresno County's waterways. John also served in the communities of Mendota and Orange Cove, where the sheriff's office then contracted law enforcement services. That was prior to their police departments. These areas were plagued by gang violence, and John frequently encountered violent felons he had once seen in Juvenile Hall, now out on the streets. He made a significant impact on gang activity in those communities. After that, John was reassigned to the Area 3 Property Detective Unit, where he tackled several challenging cases, including a violent home invasion robbery linked to gang members out of Phoenix, Arizona. His teamwork, interview skills, and dedication led to the successful arrests of multiple individuals, many of whom faced significant prison sentences. John later returned to patrol in the metropolitan Fresno area, continuing to assist citizens and remove dangerous criminals from the street. Throughout his career, John remained committed to his teammates, always offering support both personally and professionally. Over the years, John used his roles as a probation supervisor for 7 years and a deputy sheriff for the last 24 years to help those in need within our community. For him, it was never about statistics or status. His goal was always to make a difference in the world and in his community. John hopes he did just that by bringing humor, he is a very funny man, strength, and calm but firm demeanor to the job, handling calls for service, violent situations, and confrontations with the ultimate goal of doing what was right for the people and his teammates. John's path into law enforcement was unique. He never considered this career until he was 10 years old when his father, a Fresno police officer, tragically died in the line of duty. His father was John's hero, and the hero's funeral he witnessed at such a young age left a lasting impression on him. Raised with the assistance of 5 Fresno policemen who were his father's work partners, John learned the value of selflessness. These incredible men took him to the same activities and events his father had, offering him support and guidance during a very difficult time in his life. None of them were administrators or supervisors. They were just police officers who gave back, supporting a broken family without hesitation. John's first love was football, and through his mentorship and his coaches, he developed lineman skills, which he now shares with the Central Valley community, continuing to give back in that manner as well. Reflecting on his 31 years with Fresno County and a total of 35 years in law enforcement, John's motivation has always been simple: to give back. Now retired, John continues to give back, again by coaching his local football community in the Central Valley. John would like to express his deepest gratitude to his family and friends for their unwavering support and sticking with him throughout his journey in Fresno County. John's greatest accomplishments, however, extend beyond his career. His 32-year marriage to his wonderful wife, as well as raising 3 incredible sons, have been the true highlights of his life. His family is his inspiration for wanting to keep the community safe and ensuring that criminals are removed from the streets. In fact, John's son, Houston Sims, give everybody a wave, is following in his footsteps and was sworn in May of 2022 as a full-time deputy sheriff. So he will continue the legacy. So John, on behalf of Sheriff Zanoni, we would like to thank you for your many years of service to the county, and we wish you all the best in this next exciting chapter of your life. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, this is kind of humbling. I just really appreciate all the family support and support of all of my sons and my wife. My community is very important to me, and I'm so glad that I got an opportunity to give back. The Sheriff's Department has become a family for me too. Some of the same people, like my dad did, I still hang out with a lot of the same people that I did on the streets with, street officers. Those people have become intertwined in my own family. So I believe that one of the things that everybody should understand is we should always give back to our community. It should be the number one driving goal for everybody. And last thing is, God is good. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You want to have any? What was that? Do you have anything?
Just thank you.
No, very much thank you. Have your whole family come up.
We now move to item number 5 under Chairman Mendez, proclaiming April 2025 as National Child Abuse Prevention Month in Fresno County.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Sonia Bouguet, Department of Social Services. And thank you for proclaiming April as a National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Our theme this year is It Takes a Village, so I brought one with me. So with me today is Deputy Director Kimberly Smith, our Chief over Child Welfare, Roy McBurdy, Social Work Supervisor Nancy Salazar, Senior Director for All for Youth Tammy Freitas, and Esther Franco. Oh, there you are, Esther, our Executive Director of Fresno Council on Child Abuse. And I promise them I'm going to stick to my part and just hand this over for them to share with you a little bit about Child Abuse Prevention Month and our efforts. So, Kim.
I'd like to add we have Director Susan Holt with us as well from Department of Behavioral Health. Thank you, Sonia. As we gather this morning to recognize Child Abuse Prevention Month, I'm reminded of the proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. But in times like these, it takes an even larger village to protect one. And the village is all of us. This month's prevention theme is It Takes a Village. In 2024, DSS Child Welfare receives 15,997 calls of suspected child abuse and investigated 6,575 allegations of abuse. All of the calls received by our hotline, of all the calls received by our hotline, general neglect made up more than 60% of the investigations. General neglect allegations remain the #1 reported category of abuse in our county. Mental health instability, exposure to household violence, and substance abuse are significant contributing factors that place children at risk. These struggles are often compounded in difficult economic times. Through initiatives such as voluntary family maintenance, differential response strategies, linkages, housing supports, culturally responsive advocacy, partnership with neighborhood resource centers, and community-based organizations, and by funding programs such as home visitation programs, celebrating families, and partnering with educational departments, we are committed to fostering resiliency and stability within our community. Roy?
Good morning. In addition to the prevention efforts put forth by DSS and our neighborhood resource centers, we want to take a moment to also highlight the Fresno County Department of Behavioral Health and Fresno County Superintendent of Schools. Both organizations are active members of the Fresno County System of Care, AB 2083, and play vital roles in child abuse prevention through programs designed to address root causes before they lead to harm. The Department of Behavioral Health, in partnership with the Fresno County Superintendent of Schools, provides school-based mental health services for both children and families. Programs such as All for Youth, which is changing the way we support children, ensures that behavioral health support is not an afterthought, but is an essential piece of prevention and early intervention. As we honor Child Abuse Prevention Month, let us renew our commitment to this work. Let's continue to invest in partnerships, prevention, and programs that protect and uplift our children. It takes all of us. It takes our village. At this time, I'd like to hand things over to a long-term partner in child abuse prevention, Esther Franco.
Thank you. I always appreciate the opportunity to present directly to the Board of Supervisors. This is your council. As you know, it's a state mandate, and I've been with the agency for about 18 years, 2 prior as a volunteer. And as Kimberly and Roy have been working with Sanja, we have a much closer working relationship with Department of Social Services, and I'm very grateful for that because our focus is primary prevention. So how do you prevent child abuse before it happens? And so we are a very small agency, but we do a lot of work. I'm very proud of the work we do. We have a wonderful Board of Supervisors, and really the key is our prevention partners, which is Department of Social Services, Wilma's sitting back there, CASA, and a lot. There's just too many. You did receive an annual report, so I give you an annual report. I report to the state, a local DSS, and right now I'll just give you a quick story of what's happening. Domestic violence, substance abuse, all the stuff that the issues that Kimberly addressed is what we're trying to work collaboratively with other agencies that provide those direct services. 2 years ago, there was an Assembly Bill 2085 that narrowed the definition of general neglect. And as Kimberly said, neglect is the most reported type of abuse, and it's the most type of abuse that actually happens. So FCAP is not only countywide, but we are statewide. I am a member of the statewide task force to review strategies and recommendations on how mandated reporters can adhere to this new law. So we're moving, it's a paradigm shift from moving from reporting neglect, but so that's not socioeconomic disadvantaged families. So it's very important that we get that information out in training. We are the largest provider of mandated reported trainings. We do over 1,000 professionals every year. So I'm really proud of that. We're also a statewide task force for child death review. We work through the coroner's office. The information that we gather from how children die, because they don't die from child maltreatment, but there's red flags there, and we're constantly doing data evaluation. It was FCAP in 2012 that pushed a press conference on teen suicides. And now we're looking at fentanyl. We just completed a 10-year study. We're having a lot of stillbirths. So that is true primary prevention as a result of meth, fentanyl, and other substance abuse disorder. Again, as Kimberly reported, substance abuse, domestic violence, and poverty issues are probably the top three. As we work more closely with Department of Social Services, we're finding out what are the highest risk factors, because there's 5 high risk factors and then there's protective factors. So in closing, we are having our April event, our annual convening is April 12th. You all should have received invitations, and so you're welcome to stop by. It's at the Sunnyside Country Club. You can just stop by and welcome our guests if you'd like to. And in closing, I'd like to say there are generally 3 parties to child abuse: the abused, the abuser, and the bystander. And so we want all adults to feel a part of the village and start looking at how our families need strengthening. And we can do that by providing education on what are the protective factors to the families at the highest risk. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Any comment from the
Yeah, Chairman Mendez, just want to thank our team. I think a little bit later on today, we're going to receive a report from the Foster Youth Oversight Committee, but I just want to thank our staff for the great work that they're doing, and then also thank Ms. Franco for the many years of service. She has been really at the forefront in making sure that our folks address the intervention, but FCAP really tries to address the prevention and making sure we don't end up with the large caseload, 6,000 plus calls for service. It's a lot in Fresno County, but I'm glad that we have these safety net programs for our kids and our family. So thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the board? Is there any public comment on this? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board.
Move for approval.
Got a motion to approve?
Second.
Got a second? All in favor, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Please come up.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we now take up the item that was pulled from consent by Supervisor Bredfield. Item 29, under Human Resources, approve and authorize the chairman to execute a master agreement for pre-employment psychological screening and evaluation services.
Go ahead.
Okay. Just a couple of points. Could we, as I've asked before, when there's an RFP and there's approval on somebody selected, can we get a list of those that also applied but were not selected, in the report?
Yeah, Supervisor Bredefeld, we have to make a change to the Granicus system in the BAI guide, the board agenda item guide. After our meeting with you and your staff, we made that change, so you will see that moving forward.
Okay, terrific, thank you. And then just one other thing. In the staff report here, on the 2 people that got the award, they list their hourly compensation for psychologists, and it ranges from $120 to $150, and I have no problem with that. It comes back to the item on 12, which I've talked about with Medi-Cal providers, there in the report in number 12 item, their numbers are $385. I don't know how you want to approach that. I mean, we could talk about 12. And this one, I'm fine about approving this, but I have questions on the 385 versus $120 that we're paying. The same level of professionalism as a psychologist, licensed psychologist, but the rates are very different. I understand what they say in the Medi-Cal why it is, but I think there's a problem with it. So, however, I'm ready to approve this item. We can talk about 12 later.
Okay.
Okay, motion to approve item 29.
Let's got a second. Is there any public comment? Hearing none. All in favor, is going to say an aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. The motion carried.
Okay, thank you.
That concludes all our consent items pulled from this morning. We will now return to your regular agenda. Item number 6, under Supervisor Magsaysay, provide direction to staff to negotiate a reimbursement contract with the Shaver Lake Volunteer Fire Department for a fire station being built by Shaver Lake Volunteer Fire Department with funds which have been identified as part of Community Facilities District Number 1.
So I've asked for this item to be on the agenda, and we just need some general direction. There are members here from the Shaver Lake Volunteer Fire Department as well. So back in the late 70s, early 80s, the County of Fresno created some different fees that they collected from developments up in the Shaver Lake area. One of those fee categories was for a new fire station. And right now, the Shaver Lake Volunteer Fire Department's in the process of building a new station. And they are raising funds, and they identified, actually, people who live in the Shaver area came to my office and said, look, there's this pot of money out there. It's got a little over $200,000 in it. Plus, there are other categories of funds that amount to about $8 or $9 million that have been collected over the years in the Shaver area. Is there a way that we can potentially tap into these pots of funds? So I began having some conversations with County Counsel's office. And I believe the direction that I'm going to ask for today after we hear from public comment is that we enter into an agreement with the Shaver Lake Volunteer Fire Department, a reimbursement agreement for the fire station that they are in the process of building. And I was told that this needed to be noticed publicly, and we had to have a public discussion about this to make everything completely workable with it. So, Dan, is there anything that I'm missing in regards to this?
No, we're ready to receive the direction.
All right. So any questions that any of you have for me?
This is a no-brainer. I mean, this money's not going to be spent.
It's got to be spent in Shaver.
Yeah, and it needs to be spent there. They need a fire station. It's a no-brainer.
Well, since these wonderful people came from all over the county, the Shaver Lake area, and some of them live on the valley floor, Mr. McQuillan, is there any additional information you'd like to enlighten us with regarding your plans to build a fire station?
No, I think we've done probably as much as we can do on our own, raising about $150,000. We have a plan. We have a contractor. We're ready to go. We just need further financial support. But with this ingestion of additional funds, I think we'll be able to generate some additional large donors who will finally see this project is actually moving forward.
And you're okay, we would have to structure this as a reimbursement contract, so you would have to perform work, bill us, and then you would get paid. We couldn't front money to you, and you're okay with that?
Absolutely understood. That's
all right.
Where that money that we raised ourselves is huge.
Okay. Perfect. So if you want to open it up to the public.
Yeah, I will. Is there anybody in the public that wants to comment on this? Looks like none. I'll bring it back to the board.
Then I will make a motion and direct staff to begin to craft a reimbursement contract with the Shaver Lake Volunteer Fire Department where they can move forward with their fire station, and we can find a way to help pay for a significant portion of that fire station using the funds that are meant for the Shaver Lake area.
Okay, I'll second the motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you, guys.
Women of the Shaver Lake Volunteer Fire Department, thank you all very much.
Very much. Thank you.
We now move to item number 7 under the Auditor, Controller, Treasurer, Tax Collector. Conduct hearing on petition by Bernard Austin, trustee on behalf of California Pacific Land Trust to rescind the county sale of APN number 085-080-13.
Morning, Chairman Mendez, supervisors. Oscar Garcia, Auditor, Controller, Treasurer, Tax Collector. We're here before you as soon as Narayan Lon puts up the slides. Because petitioner Bernard J. Austin, counsel and trustee for California Pacific Land Trust for APN 085-08013, wants to rescind the order, but the sale. But we're going to go ahead and show your board why we should not, and we should keep the sale as valid. And Narayan Lon will go ahead, the chief from property taxes.
Good morning, Chairman and board. My name is Narayan Lon, so I'm going to start the presentation now. Okay, so this is for the March 2025 hearing to rescind the March 2024 tax sale for APN 085-08013. Oh, okay. The petitioner, Bernard J. Austin, counsel and trustee of the California Pacific Land Trust. Okay, the overview. Previous assessee and party of interest, California Pacific Land Trust, Ferdinandez Elroy, trustee. Petitioner, Bernard J. Austin, identify himself as trustee and counsel to California Pacific Land Trust, alleged the following: failed to be given notices, missing a party of interest, lack of due process. Tax collector will present that all statutory processes will follow which satisfy due process. So this is the map showing the location, 40-acre lot. This is the visual image from Parcel Quest showing the property. And this is our list of items that we did to satisfy the statutory requirement. Annual tax bill and delinquent notices were mailed each year to the assessee at the address shown on the tax roll, stating that there were delinquent taxes for the prior year. Notice of powder sale was recorded on July 15, 2022. Notice of tax sale mailed to party of interest on January 26, 2024. Under Revenue and Taxation Code, Section 3701, these notices must be sent not less than 45 days nor more than 120 days before the proposed sale. So someone who becomes a party of interest less than 45 days before the sale will not receive notice. Published in the Business Journal on January 31st, February 7, 14, and 2024. Personal contact, no valid homeowner exemption and mailing address, so no requirement was needed. Tax deed to purchaser was recorded on April 29, 2024. A little bit of history on the subject of the parcel. The subject parcel became subject to the tax collector power of sale 3 times before it was sold on the March 2024 tax sale. On July 1st, 2023, a segregated 75 portion of the property were in default. It was redeemed by Mr. Bernard Austin, the petitioner. July 1st, 2026, another 20% portion also defaulted. And again, Mr. Bernard, the petitioner, redeemed it in 2016. July 1st, 2022, this was the one that was sold at tax sale and not redeemed. So this time it's the whole parcel that was sold.
Nine, real quick. So it was 2013 and go back to the other slide. She said 2023, but it's 2013 and 2016, just like the slide says.
Yes. Okay, and the obligation to pay taxes. So property owners have an affirmative obligation to pay their taxes, whether or not they receive a bill. Failure to receive a tax bill shall not relieve the lien of taxes, nor shall it prevent the imposition of penalties. The court holds that the owner must be charged with the knowledge of the property which he owns, that it is his duty to see that he pays taxes thereon, and that when endeavoring to ascertain the amount of tax sale, he must search until he finds his property. The history of the subject parcel demonstrates that Mr. Austin knew that the California Pacific Land Trust owned the property and that he knew how to pay taxes. The next 3 slides show the previous assessee receiving title of the subject property by a set of quitclaim deed. The address to mail the tax statement was 2730 Gateway Oak Drive, Suite 100, Sacramento, California 95833. So this was a quitclaim deed that was recorded showing the same mailing address to the California Land Trust listed. This is another deed with the same address showing. Here is another deed also showing the same mailing address, and all notices and bill was sent to this address. So list pending, notice of pending action. List pending notice of pending action recorded by Mr. Bernard J. Austin. On this recorded document, Mr. Austin's address is listed as 2064 South Willow Avenue, number 7, Fresno, California. A party of interest notice was sent to this address. matching what was listed in this document. So the California Revenue and Taxation Code 4807, the notice of pending action does not stop a tax sale. So Revenue and Taxation Code Section 4807 read, no injunction or writ of mandate or other legal or equitable process shall issue in any suit action or proceeding in any court against any county, municipality, or district, or any office thereof to prevent the enjoying of collection of property taxes sought to be collected. The California Constitution, Article 13, Section 32, also support this. This was a stipulated final judgment petition that was recorded, showing again Mr. Austin J. Bernard, the same address that we sent this notice to. This is the stipulated final judgment. A stipulated final judgment was recorded on April 8, 2024, after the tax sale dated March 15, 2025. But before the tax sale date on April 29, 2024. This cannot stop the tax sale, but it can make them party of interest of excess proceed. This amended judgment of petition and order of sale was recorded on January 8, 2025, after the initial stipulated final judgment, month after the tax sale was completed. It has no effect on the tax sale. This is the in this amended judgment, Kamala K. Caponero on this amended judgment went from a 3.5% to a 4% ownership of interest. Before this document was recorded, Kamala K. Caponero was not listed as party of the owner. California Pacific Land Trust undivided interest, 96% interest remain unchanged. So party of interest notice. On the following slide 19 through 25, all images of the effort our office made to notify all party of interest. These notices was mailed on January 26, 2024, within the time frame required by the Revenue and Taxation Code 3701. After skip tracing for return notices, additional notices was mailed out on March 5, 2024. California Land Trust received 3 different party of interest notices. A party of interest notices was mailed to Mr. Bernard J. Austin as a trustee of California Land Trust to the last known address. It was returned to our office on March 4th. So, California Revenue and Taxation Code 3701. Respond to petitioner claim of lack of due process in searching for his address. Revenue and Taxation Code Section 3701B state, the tax collector shall make reasonable effort to obtain the last name and last known mailing address of party of interest. The petitioner, Mr. Bernard J. Austin, is not a party of interest. No recorded document identified the petitioner as the trustee of the previous assessee. There is no requirement of the law that the tax collector must try to find address of an attorney or other alleged representative of a party of a property owner. The tax collector conducts skip tracing to find California Pacific Land Trust, the party of interest. And here is all the list of addresses and party of interest that was sent, showing who received it. California Land Trust received 3 of these notices. Once again, the address that we sent to was 2730 Gateway Oak Drive, and the 133 Clay Street, 500 Oakland also received it. The same thing, the same address we sent. Mr. Bernard also was sent the same address, 2064 South Willard. And party of interest letters skip trace. We also skip trace and send out letters to another address, 2650 Walnut Street as well. Once again, more address was sent after skip tracing. 3 received records for the California Pacific Land Trust on this address. The 6635 Elevatons Drive, the Gateway Oak Drive, received it as well. So California Pacific Land Trust did receive the notices. So 4 findings necessary to rescind. The property should not have been sold. 2, property was not transferred or conveyed by the purchaser to a bona fide purchaser of full values, and the deed to the purchaser was recorded on April 29, 2024. Property have not become subject to a bona fide encumbrance for values, and the deed to the purchaser as recorded on April 29, 2024. And 4, the purchaser received notice of the hearing as required by Revenue and Taxation Code Section 3731, Subdivision B2. Staff recommendation. Staff believe that the first finding that the property should not have been sold cannot be made. Staff believe that the sale to the property is not valid. Staff recommendation is to not rescind the sale. Staff believe the sale of the property is valid. All right, conclusion.
Okay, any questions from the board before we move on to? Go ahead.
So, Oscar, just to be clear, there were multiple owners of this property. The person who has asked for this hearing today, 4% owner, is that correct?
As far as we knew, there was only one owner, which was the trust that she spoke of. They didn't record the deed, even though there was a court hearing in 2013, until after the tax sale. That's when we found out there was a 4% that used to be 3.5%.
And it was their responsibility to record that, and they chose to
Correct.
not record it until many years after the fact and after this went to sale.
That's correct.
All right. I think, to me, that's at the crux of the matter, is that particular issue. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move to public comment. Is Mr. Austin here?
Yes, there's the petitioner, somebody representing the petitioners here to, I don't know what they look like, but they're the ones that brought this before the board.
Okay, so do you want to come up and speak?
Or not? I thought they were going to be here. He's the one that called it, Bernard Austin, the attorney.
Okay, so the petitioner is not here.
The attorney for the previous owner is not here, apparently. Counsel, what do we do?
I mean, we just move on.
Last call. Anyone for the petitioner?
Yeah.
Bernard Austin, attorney?
Mr. Chairman, the petitioner has not shown up. The board can make its decision.
Yeah, well, I think this is pretty clear cut. You know, number one, even if you have multiple properties, you have a checklist, and you go through the checklist when you get your tax statement. All your tax statements that go through the list. You know, and it's not, you know, if it's not, you have one on the list that you don't have a statement, you contact your office and find out where the statement is.
And it has been over 5 years, so
Right.
it's not like.
Exactly. So I'll close the public portion of this and bring it back to the board for a motion.
So I will make a motion if it's okay. I know this is not in my district, but I will make a motion for staff's recommendation, which is to not rescind the sale.
Okay.
That's correct.
And note that petitioner failed to show up for the hearing.
Right.
Yes, and I will note that the petitioner was not here at the hearing.
Okay, I'll second that. Okay, I'll move it to the question. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. 5-0.
Thank you.
We now move to item number 8 under Administrative Office, confirm appointment of Raymond Hunter effective March 31st, 2025 to the position of Director of the General Services Department pursuant to Fresno County Charter Section 16.
Thank you and good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ed Hill, your Chief Operating Officer. This is one of those items that I'm most excited to present to your board this morning. I'm going to ask Mr. Raymond Hunter to please join us at the podium. Consistent with the reorganization of the Internal Services Department, the county reorganized that department to 2 separate departments, a General Services Department and an Information Technology Services Department. The county conducted a thorough and robust recruitment for these critical leadership positions, and I'm pleased to announce and recommend Mr. Raymond Hunter for the position of Director of General Services effective March 31st. I'm going to share a little bit about Mr. Hunter. He comes to us with over 2 decades of experience in facilities, contracts, and asset management. He holds multiple degrees, including a master's in human resources. Mr. Hunter is also a professor in human resource management and holds a Society of Human Resources Management HR certificate. He has proven record of managing large number of facilities, hundreds of contracts, and large-scale capital projects. Mr. Hunter is accompanied with some folks here today that are supporting him in this appointment. I'll let him introduce them. It is my pleasure to recommend the appointment of Mr. Raymond Hunter to the position of Director of General Services, and I'll let Mr. Hunter speak.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. I have with me a couple of colleagues. I have Dr. Sharice Bellamy and her partner, Michael, along with Dr. Theon Gordon, and then a friend of mine, Demetrius, is here as well to support me. Unfortunately, my mother has taken ill and can't attend, and they are here to represent my family. I'm very excited to join Fresno County and to be of service to the people of Fresno County.
Yeah. Any comments from the board? Go ahead.
So we're excited to have you. And Raymond, I remember yesterday when we met and just briefly spoke, I asked you what one of your gifts is, and you indicated service. And that is something that we need here at the county, and we're excited to have you on board. Your resume is very impressive, and really looking forward to getting to know you better. So thank you for choosing Fresno County.
Any other comments? We're very happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, very happy to have you here.
Mr. Chairman, if I may indulge you and the board to take a picture with Mr. Hunter and his support.
Yeah, go ahead and come up.
I'll make a motion to confirm the appointment.
We now move to item number 9 in the Administrative Office, confirm appointment of Michael Kerr, effective March 31st, 2025, to the position of Director of the Information Technology Services Department and Chief Information Officer pursuant to Fresno County Charter Section 16.
And thank you. And it's a great morning to be able to continue with appointing the recommendation for appointment of the other half of the ISD reorganization. I'm going to ask Mr. Michael Kerr to please come to the podium. I'm pleased to announce and recommend Mr. Michael Kerr as the Information Technology Services Department Director, also effective March 31st. Mr. Kerr comes to us with just under 2 decades of IT leadership and a wealth of expertise in both the public and private sector. Throughout his career, Mr. Kerr has earned the respect of elected officials and department heads for his innovation and his way to successfully implement information technology throughout the county. For example, he led a large project allowing police agencies to electronically submit data and reports directly to the district attorney's office, speeding up that process, which was so successful, was also replicated in other counties. Mr. Kerr also holds multiple degrees, including a master's in public administration, and he still maintains his project management professional certificate. It's my pleasure to recommend the appointment of Mr. Michael Kerr as the Director of Information Technology Services to your board. Invite him to say some words.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Michael. I go by Mike Kerr. I'm honored and excited to be joining the County of Fresno as the Director of Information Technology Services and Chief Information Officer. My primary focus will be to align our IT strategies with the broader goals of the county, ensuring that technology drives efficiency, innovation, and data security for our constituents and staff. As we move forward, my aim is to foster technological collaboration between departments, empower our staff with the tools that they need, and implement forward-thinking solutions that can scale with the growing demands of our community. I'm committed to maintaining open communication, and I look forward to meeting each of you personally and working together to achieve the vision of a technologically resilient and future-ready county. Thank you for your trust. I'm eager to get started and make a meaningful impact. Thank you.
Comments from the board? Go ahead.
And Michael, you are from Ventura County?
Correct.
And is it true that your favorite supervisor there is Kelly Long?
I am not going to comment on that.
I'm just kidding. We're excited to have you on board as well. And Kelly's pretty amazing, so we always like to give people a hard time from Ventura County.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Well, we're going to be very happy to have you on board. So,
thank you.
So, I'll look for. Is there any public comment on this? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to.
So move for the appointment.
Okay, got a second? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. You want to come up and take a picture with us?
We now move to item number 10 under Administrative Office. Accept the Fresno County Foster Care Standards and Oversight Committee Annual Report for activities from July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2024.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Mendez, Board of Supervisors, CEO Hill, County Council Cedarburg, and Clerk Slidell. My name is Wilma Tom Hashimoto, and I proudly serve on the committee for the past 6 years and actually chaired the committee for 2 years, being appointed at the very beginning by Nathan Magzig. I am also here with the current chair, Rosemary Alanis, committee members Kevin Lasiston, and Vice Chair Ed Avila. There they are. It is a pleasure to provide you an update on the Fresno County Foster Care and Oversight Committee, herefore referred to as the committee. Information that I will be sharing in the annual report is for activities from July 2023 to June 2024. Just as a little background information, the committee was established in 2001 by the Board of Supervisors, from then Susan Anderson. We all know and love her, with the purpose to exercise oversight and review of systems and services which affect children in the foster care system. We basically had 2 tasks assigned to us in 2001 that still remain true in 2025. 1, advise and make recommendation for continuing and lasting systems in the foster care. Secondly, provide a forum for community input related to the community's purpose. And I have to commend the Department of Social Services under Sonia Bugay's leadership, Kathy Werther's guidance, and the leadership of Dalvin Baker and Kimberly Smith. We have come a long way since being above the fold in an article a few years ago. Yes? What has happened is transformed is that there is transparency between the committee members as well as Department of Social Services. The committee members is a great cross-section of those who are in the community who work with foster youth, have been resource parents, are resource parents, and just have a passion to make a difference in a child's life. For that reason, we have improved on many, many levels in terms of what is going on with Mod C, licensing, what are the goals, how can we work together amongst the county to lock arms and make a difference. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our chair. The first goal she will address is the shortages of social workers and resource family homes. That, again, is a continuous one. And the second goal she will address is to focus on the well-being of children in the system. Rosemary?
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. Before I start, I would like to remind the board that the department provides a monthly fact sheet of the work of the department, sharing data on several areas of importance. This monthly report keeps the committee fully apprised on the current statistics about the children in Fresno County's care, but their progress towards reunification and permanency. It also provides data on the composition of staff. In addition, this past year, the committee has added the assistance of county council to ensure the committee pre-rates within the guideline of the Brown Act, which it is required to do. The meetings are open to the public and have public participation, which have been welcome. With the addition of county council, has been able to work within the framework of the Brown Act and still hear and address the public's input. So let's go on to the two goals for 23-24, which are: one, be a resource to the Board of Supervisors initiatives to improve the CWS. This also includes a countywide campaign to address the current shortages of social workers and resource family homes. Currently, the department has less than 5% vacancy rate in child welfare. In addition, there has been a significant decrease in children in the system due to family preservation efforts and increases in reunification efforts and paths to permanency, which include adoption. This has enabled the department to have lower caseloads, which equates to positive and productive practices benefiting the families. Two, to continue to focus on the well-being of children in the CSW to include 11 specific areas of practice. The areas of practice are part of the monthly report provided by the department, the Oversight Committee, to the Oversight Committee. These reports are based on current data and highlight trends, both positive and negative. Every month, this report is shared prior to the meeting to give the members an opportunity to bring any questions or concerns forward for the department to address in a public forum. Most productive this year has been the ongoing information about the shelter, which was officially licensed by CDSS. Every month, the report contains current occupancy, lengths of stay, etc. During the year, at the request of the committee, various special presentations have been given by the department to the committee, such as independent living programs for youth 14 and older. These presentations have been educational and allow the committee to not only learn more about the programs of practice, but ask questions and share any concerns. I hope this gives the Board of Supervisors information that we have presented to you today. One of the other talking points I would like to talk about is we are short 6 committee members. So we're asking the board if they could please assist us in appointing more committee members. And that's the end of my presentation.
Bring it back to the board.
So Wilma, do I need to appoint anyone from District 5, or are we full?
It's been a busy year this past year, so I have actually relocated out of your area. And so, yes, my term actually ended in December.
All right, so I have one I need to appoint then.
You do, and you have an application sitting in the file.
Excellent, thank you. Well, actually, I might later today be making an appointment to your board. We'll get to that in a couple of items. Pamela Hancock.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And so I do want you have the report in front of you. Draw your eyes to page number 3. Third page, it's probably not. And I do want to just kind of highlight, as Rosemary had commented on, we do have vacancies. Kudos to District 2. There's 4 people who are on it. And the other ones, there are vacancies, so please. We also, in terms of our committees, we have 2 subcommittees that we partner with the broader community, which have been ongoing, and that would be with Fresno County Superintendent School, the Education Committee, and of course with Susan Holt's Department, Children Behavioral Health. Details may be found in your report, starting on page 6, but I did want to highlight 2 items. One is, of course, the graduation rate for foster youth. It has increased in the past year from 55.36% to 59.09%. This is an increase of 3.75%. Why that is substantial to us is because we know sometimes when the children enter the foster care system, education is not given high priority. In fact, they're starting off at a GPA. And so to have them walk across that stage a few years later is one that we celebrate. We also know that school stability is important for the entire school year. That has also decreased, unfortunately, from 61% to 59.6%. That is a 1.4% decrease. Although this sounds like a small percentage, it is the goal to trend upward, because we feel that children, of course, who are able to complete their school year are better able to connect with their peers, connect with their schools, and perform better academically. All this, having said, is being addressed countywide, as well as Department of Social Services commitment to CQI, lots of acronyms, continuous quality improvement through the community input, reviews, and evaluation. There is nothing that Sonia and her team doesn't know what's going on in the foster care system across the county. So our committee, of course, it's kudos to our volunteers who are on the committee. It's not easy work. Sometimes it's heavy load, but they show up every Wednesday, once a month on the first Wednesday, because they want to make a difference. So having said that, again, my plea is please appoint additional community members. Any questions?
Wilma, one more question. So in the report, it talks about August of 2023, there were 2,848 kids that were in the foster care system. And I think there's been a significant reduction. So can you just state for the audience what that number is today?
Yes. And I just had my tap on the shoulder. I can help you with that.
I can help with the data. So we have had a significant decrease in number of kids in care. So today we have just under 1,500 kids in care, in foster care, and we work with just under 2,000 kids in total. So 2,000 kids in child welfare system, under 1,500 in out-of-home placement.
So you're looking at almost a 50% reduction in really the last 18 months.
About 40% in total over the past 2 years, yes. And actually what's significant is we have a 40% reduction of kids in placement and kids in care, and also nearly 40% reduction in entries into care. Our calls into child welfare did not change. How we support families up front with addressing poverty, addressing substance use, addressing mental health, we have reduced. We're going on average 57 kids enter our system, and it used to be just over 100.
Excellent.
So we have less entries and more kids exiting our system. We're in a good
That is
spot.
great news.
And I also want to share with your board that while 2 years ago in 2022 and 23 and 23-24, our hiring and social workers were really, that part of the reason why committee really supported that is we had 14% vacancy rate. Your board, with your board support, we added few positions. We did a lot of hiring, including our HR supporting continuous hiring for social workers. With addressing of salaries and wages, our vacancy rate has been 5% for at least 8-9 months. That we reached a point with decreasing caseload that we are now intentionally holding hiring because we don't need the positions, because we don't have the work to the level it was. So we are, well, this was a goal for 22-23 and 23-24, and we appreciated that support and that attention. We are really, for that recommendation, we're really in a good spot as well. So thank you for that support. And thank you to the committee for really supporting the department in these efforts.
So we really are going upstream and addressing the needs of the children, and it's kin care. One is going upstream, finding out if a family is in need of food before there is CPS to remove the children because of neglect. Let's provide the resources to the families. If it's parenting needs, let's provide the classes so that we are taking care of the family as a unit. We are also looking at family care, find care in terms of if a child runs away while in foster care. My other hat is the executive director of a court-appointed special advocates, and we are going to have an investigator, private investigator, try and locate these children. They may have run off to another relative out of the county. Well, if they're in a safe place, let's work with the CASAs up there and make sure this family is going to be certified as a resource parent and the child can stay with family, because ultimately that's what is best for the child. At this time, I'm more than happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have any questions. I'm on the chair as the appointed for the Board of Supervisors, and for the most part, I've just kind of listened. And I think for the benefit of the public, it's important to note that this is, as you know, everybody explained, an independent, volunteer-based committee. I think oftentimes there's a perception that our staff run the committee, but they do not. They're there to provide information, data, answer questions, and having been part of those, I think it's 3 meetings now, I can tell you that there's a lot of substantive, great questions that get asked there. Our staff have been great at answering them and making sure that we're getting the information that we need to get. But I just wanted to publicly thank you. Thank you, Trustee Hashimoto. It's your other hat that you wear. I saw you honed in on the graduation rates. I think you're already thinking like a school board member. But I really do appreciate our chair, Rosemary, your work. You and I have had some great conversations, and then our staff too, having to work with foster youth population. I joked that I knew Delvin when he had a ponytail a long time ago, and now he's in the suit. But I think that's just his commitment over so many years to our foster youth, and that's something that's very important to me. As we know, we've been a foster parents for 6 years now, and so we've had a chance to see a lot of the trauma, a lot of the tough decisions that have to be made by our staff. But I think you guys have done a great job, and just want to continue to do that great work for our community. So with that, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Question?
Go ahead.
Okay, question. Sonia, well, how do you account for the decrease in the foster kids? The dramatic decrease?
Couple of different things. So one is we really brought a lot more supportive services to our parents when they're going through unification. When we remove kids out of care, our intent is always to reunify. Sometimes that doesn't happen and our kids end up in adoptions or in long-term foster care permanency planning, but the reality is what we're doing is trying to do everything we can with parents to reunify. So increase in services to parents, increase in person services, increase in visitation. So we had some backlogs in visitation. We now, for every family, receives at least double the court minimum, because court will issue court orders for visitation, but they're at. So we're giving families every chance they have to reunify. Doing those increased supports is really, our reunification rates went from 18% to almost 30%. We're still not at a national standard. We're there. And then increasing those supports and exits were part of it. Part of it is also reduction in entries. So we went from about 105 kids entering foster care every month 2 years ago to about 57. So that reduction in entries with increased reunification is how we reduce foster care. The other piece that really has been great about this group is kids that are already in permanency planning. So we've terminated services, sometimes even terminated parental rights. Our staff are re-engaging families and figuring out, now that the kids are older, are the issues different? So we can reunify. I'm absolutely proud of the team in our permanency planning, reunifying from long-term foster care. So there's been probably 30 different efforts over the past couple of years that have all been getting at the reduction of kids in care.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Just one suggestion. You were talking about trying to fill these seats. If you can help your supervisor out by going out and finding people that are willing to do this, that would be very appreciative.
Thank you. I've gone ahead and sent out fillers and print out applications and asked people if they were willing to go ahead and sit on the committee. I currently have 3 citizens in my area that are going to go ahead and put in their application to be on the committee. Another thing that I wanted to mention is the committee is very, we care about the kids, we care what happens, and that's why we're here. And a lot of the stuff that we do on our own time is try to educate ourselves. How does the system work? You know, how are the kids going in, coming out? And one of the things that we did is we had a couple of the committee members meet with some of the staff, and they came back with some very good suggestions from the staff. And then we had a couple of us that went and sat all morning with Judge Dolis. And we sat with Judge Dolis and we watched a couple of cases, and it gave us a different perspective. So now when we go back to the committee, we know we have more educated questions to ask. We kind of know, we're just educating ourselves also. And it means a lot to us to be on this committee. And we thank Wilma before she goes out, well, she is going out, for everything that she's done for the committee. So.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask for public comment on this item. Bring it back to the board. Do we have to have a motion to accept it, or? Sure. Okay.
You have.
I'll second the motion to accept.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your goodie bag. Shameless plug for CASA.
We now move to item number 11 under the Administrative Office. Adopt recommended changes to the Fresno County State Legislative Platform. Authorize the chairman to execute letters of support or opposition in accordance with the platform. Authorize the County Administrative Office to work with the County State Legislative Delegation, Sacramento lobbyists, and or other necessary parties to support, oppose legislation in accordance with the platform. And receive verbal report from Paul Yoder, state lobbyist regarding legislative actions.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board, Samantha Buck, County Administrative Office. The item before your board is the annual update to the county state legislative platform, and for timing purposes, we do this on an annual basis ahead of the CSAC Legislative Conference, which is held the end of April in Sacramento. The platform before your board provides a statement of the goals and priority of the board. It establishes a basis for advocacy efforts with the legislature and state agencies. And it was updated with input from county departments and our state advocate, Paul Yoder, who is joining us here today. Now, for the format of this presentation, I'll provide your board with a high-level overview of the recommended changes. You'll have an opportunity to review, make additional changes if you would like. Then I'll ask your board to adopt the platform with the changes. At that point, I'll turn the presentation over to Paul, who will provide your board with an update on legislative activities at the state level. Now, the primary changes to the platform by section are as follows. Under criminal justice and public protection, we added language to provide funding for the implementation of Prop 36. As you're aware, this was passed by the voters this past fall, and it increased punishment for theft and drug crimes, and it basically unwound the provisions of Prop 47, and it does have a countywide impact to not only our justice partners, but also DBH and the court. Under general government and finance, we revised the term green to environmentally conscious for consistency with our federal platform. Under housing and homelessness, this is also a new section for that. We did the same thing with the federal legislative platform, so we're being consistent there. Under public, mental, and healthcare services, we added language in support of increased children's services funding for mandated programs. We also requested revisions to the state payment adjustment definitions to include fee-for-service rate, and this is to encourage additional practitioner participation in Medi-Cal. We requested increases in hospital care capacity in disadvantaged rural areas through regulatory changes and then also infrastructure funding. Under social services, we revised language to support an updated child welfare services work study as required by SB 2030. This concludes my presentation. I'm available should you have questions. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to questions. Anybody want to ask? You can ask questions later, too. Okay.
You want to ask questions on the platform now, or just what you were saying?
Well, I'm going to wait till the end. You can ask now.
Oh, no. Go ahead. I'll wait. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Before we do that, did your board have any revisions to the platform?
Does anybody have any reservations or just clarifications?
Because I'd like to request for any revisions, then request for adoption with the revisions that we reviewed with, or the.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and ask if you want some clarification?
It's under criminal justice and public protection. It's on the fourth page of the corrections at the top. It says support legislation that will require those who are convicted of selling, supplying, giving away, or trafficking fentanyl to be advised and acknowledge that selling, supplying, giving away, or trafficking fentanyl is extremely dangerous to human life, and that if they continue to sell, supply, give away, or traffic fentanyl as a result of their selling, supplying, giving away, or trafficking fentanyl, someone is killed, they can be charged with murder. Why would we put that in there? I mean, we're advising them that if they engage in criminal conduct with fentanyl, hey, you can be charged with murder. I mean, do we do that with people who potentially want to steal something out of a store? I mean, why do we have this in here? It seems silly.
Yeah, it's my understanding it says a portion of Prop 36 implementation.
It does seem a little, Mr. Chairman, board members, good morning. Paul Yoder, SYSL, your state advocate in Sacramento. Through the chair to the supervisor's question, it does seem a little odd, but that's part of the fight that's been happening in Sacramento over enhanced penalties, especially with regards to new drugs like fentanyl, tranq, things like that. This has been just a workaround, if you will, instead of a harsher penalty, right, which a majority of the legislature over the last couple of years has been disinclined to enact, to move through the legislature, send to the governor. This was an alternative to that. But then Proposition 36 passed, and that's changed. As Sam mentioned, that's changed some things. But it is unique. You are correct. You're absolutely correct.
A quick comment. I think maybe part of the reason it's in here is Fresno County was one of the first counties that really put a campaign together against trying to stop fentanyl, because I know about 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years ago, we started seeing increases in deaths from fentanyl. And I think one particular year we had close to 100 or 114 deaths, people who had somehow gotten a hold of fentanyl and died. And so our district attorney kind of led the way, came to the Board of Supervisors, received some grant funding, and then we led the way for other counties when it came to just awareness with fentanyl. And I believe the district attorney's office, on a few cases, they do inform people, drug dealers who come in where people have lost their life, that they can be charged with murder in the future if clearly the drug dealer knew that by selling the fentanyl, someone could die from it. So I think what this is attempting to do, and I don't want to speak for anyone, but I think what this is attempting to do is kind of build upon some of the efforts that the district attorney's office has been doing here in Fresno County, and that's why we're seeing it in our legislative platform.
I mean, I know that they have clearly done that. I've seen the district attorney do that, which is very important. I don't know. It seems kind of silly. I think people know fentanyl has killed hundreds of thousands of people in this country. And I think people know that if you're dealing drugs, whether it's fentanyl or heroin or any of the other illegal drugs, and people die from it, they can be charged with murder. I'm not sure that we need this anymore. Maybe we needed it early on when people didn't understand about how bad fentanyl was. It just seems silly to have it in here. Like, hey, we just want to tell you, if you're doing bad things, you could be held accountable for it.
Well, I think, Gary, this shows how silly Sacramento is, that we have to say stuff like this. There's actually a case in Superior Court over here. It's going on today. They're doing a jury selection on a case where it was a seller of fentanyl that's being charged with murder as we speak here today.
Well, if the board wants to keep it in, we'll keep it in. It seems like it's really not necessary.
Chairman, I think there is value in keeping it in. Supervisor Bredefeld.
Yeah.
I think last week I met with Mr. Horton that does work with educating, especially kids, especially if you have situations where kids are partying, and then I didn't know this recently, but any drug can potentially, or drink can be laced with fentanyl, and this kind of gets into they're just partying, but I think the awareness is important for it too. It does seem a little bit silly. You have to remind people that it's a crime, but I think this is also intended to kind of prevent, especially people that are not too familiar with what fentanyl is, and it's such a small dosage can have a very lethal effect. So I think there is some value to keeping it in there, even though it's repetitive and a little bit silly.
Okay, well, that's why I raised it in. Just one other question. Under the energy air quality, it says support an increase in the statewide cap for renewable energy self-generation bill credit transfer solar projects to allow counties to reduce carbon footprint and lower the cost of operation. Could you just give me a brief synopsis of that?
Where that came from? What page are you on?
I'm on page 5, yes.
Which bullet? I apologize.
It's the next to last one under energy air quality. Support an increase in the statewide cap for renewable energy.
I apologize. I cannot remember the history on this item. I think we may need to check on this and get back to you.
Okay.
Mr. Supervisor.
No problem.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it, Chairman.
And just to speak up a little bit on this, I think what Fresno County wants is as much flexibility as possible with the state's greenhouse gas goals, reduction goals. there's a lot of, by 2035, we're supposed to have a zero emission fleet, which is next to impossible. So I think what some of these are attempting to do, like the first bullet point, is to the extent that the state has these mandates, they need to be providing resources to us to accomplish them, because some of the mandates they have, engines don't even exist to meet some of the emission standards that are out there. So while I'm challenged with this issue because I'm one who believes that we need to have all fuel types available to us, because that keeps prices low and it allows access to affordable energy for all. The state kind of has a different idea, and they're kind of forcing electric mandates on us. And so to the extent that the state wants to force those, we as a county, I think, need to speak up and say, you need to give us resources if you're going to force these mandates. So that's my understanding what these some of these bullet points are attempting to say.
Correct. And we keep the changes year over year, so we'll go back and see when that revision or was added, and then I can track and see what happened during the legislative session, and we'll report out to your board.
Thank you very much.
All right. And at this point, I'd request to adopt with the revisions, and then we can turn it over to Paul.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Okay, I'll second. You'll second it? Is there any public comment on this? Hearing none. All in favor, somebody saying aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carried. Thank
you.
you, Sam, for
Thanks.
getting us back on the right track here. So, Paul, it's all yours.
Mr. Chairman, thank you again. Supervisor, I think I do remember the history now, and I think it's phrased very oddly. And so Sam and I will talk about that, and we'll get back to you, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. All right, supervisors, hi. So I like to always start with where we are in the process, for your sake, for the public's sake, right? So we are at the point at which bills have already been introduced. There's a bill introduction deadline of Friday, February 21st, and there's a couple thousand bills, right? And that's a big day, and we send out reports. But as fate would have it, when I'm here presenting to you today, we are at the juncture where it's a smaller package of bills, but a lot of times the bills are more substantive. We are up against the deadline to amend spot bills. And for the public's benefit, those are bills that are introduced with really nothing substantive in them. And they say things like, it is the intent of the legislature to do X, Y, Z. There's a deadline by which, if the bill is going to be referred to a committee, it has to get the proverbial meat on the bone, right? So
they're stealth bills.
A lot of them are stealth bills, which is why I'm talking to you about it today, board members. Let's say 200 bills compared to 2,000 bills on February 21st. But in a lot of ways, those 200 bills ultimately are going to be just as impactful as that whole band of 2,000 bills that were introduced last month. So we're going through them. I went through them as quickly as I could this morning. Nothing of specific impact to Fresno County that I'm aware of, but we'll continue to go through there and cull the list and work with Sam and Fine on that. And then we head into April, and April is the big month for hearings, for legislative hearings, as you'll recall. Generally, the more controversial the bill, the later it will be heard in the month. Okay, that's a good rule of thumb. Then we get to the May revise. I'll talk about the state budget here in a second. And then we hit the final stages of the budget in June, right? And so that's where we are in the process. For the May revise, things have gotten worse since I last spoke to you. I think in January, the governor's budget, his estimate of a tiny surplus was $323 million. I think it's safe to say that's gone away. Everybody's probably seen the articles at this point. The state is spending more than it projected in a variety of ways with respect to health care in California. The fires in Southern California are probably going to end up costing the state budget a couple $2 billion, if I had to guess right now. And if board members want me to break that out in question and answer, I can do that. Revenues continue to be strong, but the expenses really are kind of going through the roof, especially in the healthcare arena. So when the May revise comes out, I think, unfortunately, we have to expect a deficit of at least $10 billion. And we are hearing rumors that it could actually be as high as somewhere in the neighborhood of $18 to $20 billion. I want to talk a little bit about bonds, especially because given the state's general fund situation, that's where the money is. To the extent money is anywhere in Sacramento, The governor proposed spending $2.5 billion of the $10 billion approved by the voters in Proposition 4. He proposed, of that $2.5 billion, he proposed that that first tranche go out the way he would like it to go out, and that the other $7.5 billion wait for another day. Two things to watch in the legislature. One, they're probably going to want to go higher than $2.5 billion. They're probably going to want to get more to New York so that more things can be funded and funded sooner. And they're probably going to disagree with the governor with respect to what gets funded first. So one of the things we are happy to report that we worked on successfully for the Valley is after the fires in Southern California, there was an effort to the extent any of the monies in Prop 4 are fire related, there was an attempt to try to get those monies directly to Southern California, which would be a righteous cause because the fires were just absolutely horrible. But as I reported to you, I think the last time I was here, you've obviously had horrible fires too. And the bond is of statewide importance. And when the voters said yes, those were the voters statewide. And so we have successfully protected that money to go out statewide. But I have to tell you, Los Angeles, and when I say Los Angeles, I mean several of the cities within the county of Los Angeles and the county of Los Angeles are currently going to the legislature on a pretty weekly basis at this point. It's not just the property tax relief that the governor's already said that the residents who are burned out can have. It's additional costs that Los Angeles, units of local government in Los Angeles County want to be reimbursed for. And that's going to increase the state general fund pressure, we think, as well. For Prop 1 and behavioral health, I think in the next month, those awards are going to go out, and good luck to anybody who applied in Fresno County. But we think the first awards for Proposition 1 will go out in May. And then I want to close by noting a couple things, just the themes that we're seeing. Affordability. The legislature is talking about trying to address affordability, especially in utility costs, energy costs, gasoline costs. I think they heard the voters loud and clear in November. And there is one bill, I like to give examples. I think the board knows that from prior presentations. There's a bill that's being expedited in the legislature, Assembly Bill 306. It's probably going to be heard on the Assembly floor this week, be in the second house as early as next week. What does that bill do? For home builders and apartment builders in California, it would basically pause the development of new building standards for 6 full years. And the idea there is that builders and their bankers that they have to get money from, everyone would understand exactly what the playing field is in California for the next 6 years. Now, does everybody love that idea? No, not everybody loves that idea. Will it preclude you from adopting or updating your own building codes for that same 6 years? Yes. So are some local governments concerned about it? They are. But that is, in terms of affordability and the legislature, especially in the Assembly, the Assembly Speaker in particular, trying to do something about affordability in California, AB 306 is an example that I would give the board and the public today. Thank you for letting me present to you. I'm happy to take any and all questions.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Just some general observations. There was an article last week about the city of Los Angeles facing a $1 billion hole in their budget. And I've not seen a recent article about the county of Los Angeles, but it's my understanding they're also facing some financial challenges. I think San Francisco, I saw an article saying that they were facing an $800 million hole in their budget. And the city of Fresno also has a pretty sizable hole in its budget. So with the challenges that the state is facing financially, and we have a hole in our budget, but fortunately, proportionally, it's not as large as what some of the other larger metropolitan centers of California are facing. You indicated that council members and county supervisors from the LA region are going to Sacramento asking for additional financial relief. Do you see any kind of a scenario where all cities and counties are going to get some kind of relief, or is it just going to be focused on Los Angeles?
I think given the state's, through the chair, thank you for the question. I think given the state's fiscal situation, I'm not sure how much relief can be provided except what's already been committed by the governor, which is property tax relief for the residents who were burned out of their homes. And not only, this is the first time ever, and I want to remind the board, this is the first time ever those individuals in California weren't just granted property tax relief on their dwellings, they were also granted property tax relief on the ground, the dirt underneath it. So that means no property tax is going to be generated within the burn areas. That's something I think I've talked to you about it before. We're all going to want to watch that very, very closely. You have special districts completely within the burn areas in Southern California that have issued bonds, and they now have zero income to pay those bonds. So it's something we're watching very, very closely. I think the relief, again, that has been promised, it'll be delivered. But beyond that, I think it's tough. And if I may, I think, for some of these jurisdictions, you have to take their projected deficits uniquely. The County of Los Angeles, a big part of the County of LA's problem right now stems from settlements or potential settlements that result from legislation that was passed a couple of years ago that relates to child sexual abuse and the statute of limitations. Obviously, that's a horrible thing that happened to those individuals. The settlements are running in the tens of millions. Cumulatively, the estimate is $2 to $4 billion. Well, that's the estimate right now. And so that's part of LA County's estimated deficit, is my understanding. That may not be the case for the city of Fresno. I don't know. But there are idiosyncrasies, if I said that right, city by city, when you talk about the estimated deficits.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just you mentioned about the $10 billion shortfall and related to health care. I've heard where some of that is related to the people who are here illegally and the costs associated with that. Is that accurate?
That's part of again, may I, through the chair,
please,
just break it down?
Please.
The most recent expansion of Medi-Cal in California was to individuals who are undocumented residents, ages 25 to 55. Approximately. The state had already done under 25 years of age and had done over 55 years of age. That is part of it. The estimate of the additional costs and the rollout of that absolutely is part of that. Another part of that is Proposition 35, which the voters said yes to, and we've talked about that in previous presentations. That was going to be a sort of double-edged sword, if you would. Less money for the state's general fund, right, through the managed care organization tax, but more money to increase physician rates in areas like the Central Valley, and more money to buttress hospitals that are failing, or have failed or on the verge of failing. And it was a mixed bag, but the voters said yes. But there was an estimate in the 24-25 state budget of how much money the state would get, and it was predicated on the voters saying no to Proposition 35, and the voters said yes. So that's part of the problem as well. So it's a double whammy, if not a triple whammy. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Going back, he said they're being lobbied by basically Los Angeles County and the cities there, but don't they make up somewhere between 20 and 25% of the legislature?
More than that, actually. Yeah. There are, I believe, over 30 members.
30 members,
technically, that have some part of Los Angeles County.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of legislators. Yeah.
Yeah, because of the way redistricting works, there could be in other counties too. Yeah.
No, it's at least a quarter of the legislature.
Yeah.
I want to say close to a third.
Yeah.
There's some districts that just barely get in there, and they actually go into Orange
Right.
County and other parts of Southern California, but it's over 30.
Any other questions? Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much, Paul. You're very knowledgeable on this subject and have many years of experience.
Appreciate it, board members. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Okay.
Take care.
We now move to item number 12 under Behavioral Health. Approve and authorize chairman to execute Second Amendment to Master Agreement number 23-291 with Drug Medi-Cal Certified Providers.
Try that again with audio. Good morning, Chairman, Supervisors. Susan Holt, your Behavioral Health Director. Before you, I have an amendment for residential treatment rates for our network of residential treatment providers. Before I speak to the item before you for your consideration and vote, I do want to address the question about outpatient rates. Outpatient rates are only associated in residential substance use disorder treatment for a very limited service set, and they are provided at a rate for only recovery services and case management. Does not include therapy, group treatment assessments, because those are factored into the bundled rate, which is the residential rate for which we are seeking an amendment today. I'll also flag that those outpatient rates are established by the state to the plan. We are primarily a health plan. The Department of Behavioral Health, at your direction, under contract with the state, is a behavioral health care plan for Medi-Cal members. Through that, our rate that we've set for outpatient services in this agreement and others is actually 60% of the rate we receive. It's also significantly lower than Tulare County, our neighbor. Their rate is substantially higher than the rate that we receive as a health plan. The matter before you relates to those bundled rates that I mentioned for the residential treatment services for substance use disorder. We received radical historic shifts in direction from the state called payment reform. And in June of 23, we brought a number of contracts to the board to shift how we were paid away from operational cost to a fee-for-service structure. Most of those rates were standardized in that process, but one of the sole business lines that was not standardized at that time was the residential treatment of substance use disorders. Historically, we have had low payment structures, and we knew that we would embark in market analysis and evaluation of our network adequacy post-payment reform. We have concluded that work and determined that 3 of our 5 network providers are too low compared to the average and significantly lower than the market. And we are required by our contract with the state to maintain an adequate network for all Medi-Cal beneficiaries for the services that we are mandated to provide. And for that reason, we are recommending an increase to the floor of our range for residential Medi-Cal reimbursement with no change to the other providers who were determined at or above the average in our network. Happy to take any questions of the board.
Okay, questions? Go ahead.
So help me understand and break this down. As we look at this chart, physicians are getting $941. Psychologists are getting $378. In reading the report, it says that rate includes, but it's not limited to, staff time spent on direct patient care, right? Is that related to that?
Yes, with the caveat that the substance use disorder residential treatment, the rate for the bundled rate includes most of the treatment services. What you see in the rate below there, that is the provider type rates, those are the only services that are unbundled in residential substance use disorder care, which would include case management and recovery services, excluding assessments, excluding therapy. And again, that is a subset of the rate that we receive as a plan.
So when the psychologist rate, for example, $387, whatever it is, that includes therapy services, right?
I'm sorry, say again.
That includes therapy services.
In the SUD residential treatment arena, no, sir, it does not, because therapy is considered in the bundled services package. So above that, on the rate sheet, you have the residential flat rate. It's a day rate.
Mm-hmm.
So if Susan Holt is a Medi-Cal member and goes into one of our network residential treatment programs for the therapy, the group treatment services, they will receive the flat rate. If, in addition to that...
Show me that rate on here. What is that rate, the flat rate?
So on, pardon me, on the top you should see residential 1.1. That's the ASAM level of care. Withdrawal management 3.2, residential 3.3, and residential 3.5. So these are day rates, and those are bundled. So it includes, as I mentioned, assessment, therapy, group treatment. The way that the state has set rates, there's case management can be provided on top of that, separate from the bundled rate. It would be very rare that a substance use disorder residential treatment program would have a psychologist delivering that service. Even with the rate as it is, it's just not a highest and best use of that classification. But the rate sheets are rates that are provided to us from the state. So in the event that they wanted to utilize a psychologist to do case management, that would be the rate. We would receive from the state $630. And we've negotiated with board approval of those outpatient rates. Those are already approved rates, not subject to amendment today.
So the psychologist rate of 378, what is that 378 encompassing then?
So all of the rates, whether it be the day rate or the fee-for-service rates for the outpatient rates, these are fully loaded rates. So these are not private practitioners. These are full operational programs subject to all of the requirements of the health plan to operate a total package of services. So they do not get any administrative overhead in the contract. They do not receive any mileage when they have to travel to pick up a family member for a visit, for example. So these rates that are paid, they're not paid to any individual practitioner by the department. We are paying a company to deliver a mandated service that we are delivering as a health plan. And so this covers their company's workers' comp liability, for example. We don't pay them any insurance. They don't line item us a budget for that. So the company has to provide all of the package of services. And so in addition, they have numerous reporting requirements. We are not paying them for...
You're saying that there's a psychologist, 378.40, that they may not even have a psychologist there.
They may not, but they will certainly have recovery specialists and would be able to claim for their peer support services, case managers as well. But again, we've tried to provide transparency for our board and the public to understand that these are provider types who would be eligible to deliver a service. So that's why we have the rate established. In practice, it's exceptionally rare that you would ever see a psychologist delivering a recovery services or case management in a residential SUD. We have limited psychologists in the community, so they are typically utilized doing those assessments and treatment plans in specialty mental health services, not so much in the residential substance use disorder space. But again, these are allowable in the event that one of our providers...
I hear what you're saying, but this is really not transparent to me. This is very unclear. You're paying for something with just listing things for a program, whether or not it's being provided by the people you're listing here, correct?
It is an allowable service.
It's an allowable service, but you don't know if it's being provided by these people at all. It's just numbers being put in for clinicians.
For the practitioners who are psychologists, if they were to deliver a case management service, that would be the rate that the department would provide.
But you're paying that whether they're...
No, it's a fee for service. So the day rate, they only receive that rate if there's for lack of a better term, a head on a bed, right? It's a daily rate. They're there for that day. They received the groups. They received the therapy. They're going to get the day rate. And it's not practitioners, it's the company. For the fee for service case management and recovery services, they only receive compensation in the event that there's an adequate claim that we have adjudicated properly. So if they do a 30-minute CPT code, which is a procedural code for Medi-Cal claiming, we would validate that claim, determine the accuracy, we claim it to the state, and we issue them the board-approved rate that is part of their contract. So they're not getting 40 hours worth of anybody's time. It is only a service delivered, validated claim, and the payment according to contract terms. I apologize if that wasn't clear.
Sure. Offline, we'll meet and discuss it further rather than taking up more time here. It is unclear to me.
Okay.
And I just want to get greater clarification on it.
I'm more than happy to do that. I look forward to it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Question I have with the rates. So I don't know if I heard you right. Maybe you can clarify to me. So as services are being rendered and then billed to us, we validate the billing, and then that's sent to the state, and we're reimbursed through Medi-Cal.
We are reimbursed at the plan rate, which I've established is what we receive, and then what's in the contract is the subset of the rate that we pay.
So what I'm getting at, I think at one point you indicated that some of these billing rates are only reimbursed at 60%?
What we've determined in our network is that we have site-based rate, field-based rate, and we have high acute programs, full service partnership rates. These rates are at the site-based rate because there's less travel of their practitioners because the persons served are there most of the time.
And again, when we bill, so we'll bill Medi-Cal, do we only pay the practitioners after we've been reimbursed, or do we front the money to the people who are performing the services?
The way that our contracts are structured is we have a certain amount of days to pay based on the submission of the invoice, irrespective of the payment timeline from the state on claims. There is a requirement as well for us to bill to other health coverage first. So our providers may bill to private insurance, and that takes about 90 days for us to get an explanation of benefits that needs to attach to the Medi-Cal claim. So that process is time consuming.
The reason this is important is from a cash flow standpoint.
Yes, sir.
And so if we're fronting money and then having to wait months, and maybe even some claims might be disputed and maybe we're out thousands of dollars, which I'm sure is a rare occurrence. Just with my understanding of how your department operates, you only receive about $600,000 of net county cost for your roughly $400 million operation. So we have to be very careful to
correct
with how we operate.
And none of those dollars are for the behavioral health services. Those are all for the public guardian's office. The claiming team has really beefed up their claiming speed so that we can make sure that we're addressing the cash flow. We have reduced the net county cost to date pretty significantly from where it was a few months ago. We're also working with the Joint Powers Authority, California Mental Health Services Authority, to address some quality improvement opportunities across the state. Fresno is not unique in this regard in any way, shape, or form. In fact, we would be proud to say that we are farther along than many counties in terms of keeping our department and our cash flow at the general fund healthy, but it is a statewide challenge right now.
So, and I'm sorry, Chairman, but this is critical, just looking at how challenging our budget is right now. So, is there a reconciliation done at the end of every fiscal year to make sure that what we have reimbursed providers for, we have been paid back, and like we're at 100%? Because even running a 1 or 2% deficit is millions of dollars that the county loses. So, what kind of reconciliation is done to make sure that we are made whole at the end of each fiscal year?
Yep. So great question. So we have language in our contracts that allows us to recoup in the event that we have anything that was determined to be an invalid claim. We do have a period of time which we can do what's called void and replace. If we determine that there was an incorrect CPT code, for example, we have the opportunity to void the claim that was previously submitted and replace it with an accurate claim. And then we have the ability to come back to our providers to reconcile that.
The challenge is because we front money and we're having to wait sometimes months until we get reimbursed from the state or federal government, I don't think there really is any way that we can reconcile. So we're always having to front money knowing that we're a couple of months in arrears from getting repaid. Is that correct?
We're also, because of the IGT requirement, so the intergovernmental transfer process, we have funds that we put into the IGT because we have to utilize our non-federal dollars in order to draw down the federal participation dollars. So that is another vulnerability. We do utilize our realignment and we utilize our Mental Health Services Act dollars to do that. And I think that we are looking to increase the ability to transfer into the IGT regularly. We've been working very closely with the auditors team as well.
One thing I think we need to ask for, and I don't know if our legislative platform that we just approved, but we need actually in advance of Medi-Cal monies that can be used for the different programs that you administer, because we can't afford to front money and then wait for reimbursement. It is extremely costly.
Agreed. And I would also make a nod of appreciation for the presentation that came before me for the addressing of rates, although there is certainly complex and certainly a lot of education that we could do for our community and stakeholders and our board. Our rates are significantly lower than our neighbors. The psychologist rate that I was referencing for Fresno County plan is lower than Madera and significantly lower than Tulare. So it's unfortunate that a large county such as ours, with workforce shortages, many people in need, all of the work that we're doing to help prevent the negative outcomes of untreated substance use disorder and mental health conditions, it is a travesty to me that our rates are set so low by the state.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this item? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board for approval. Okay, got a motion to approve?
I'll second.
Okay, got a second. All in favor, so I saying aye?
Aye.
No. I'm a no vote.
One no?
Yep.
4-1.
Motion carries with Supervisor Bredefield voting no. We now move to item number 13. Under Public Works and Planning, consider and adopt resolution accepting 2024 General Plan Annual Progress Report.
Good morning, members of the board. Bernardi Mendez, Department of Public Works and Planning. Staff is recommending that your board accept the General Plan Annual Report and authorize the department to submit the report to state. That is a requirement of each jurisdiction to do so by April 1st of every year. This item comes before you with a recommendation for approval unanimously by the Planning Commission. There was a presenter at the Planning Commission who provided public testimony. That same individual this morning provided a 52-page letter based on my scan of the letter. I'm going to confess I did not read it all. There isn't anything in there that would cause me alarm or to recommend differently from the recommended action. The author raises points in the letter that I will address here in just a moment. Specifically, the individual indicates that the annual report lacks a reference to a determination on the county's general plan compliance or consistency with the state's 2017 general plan guidelines. That was a deficiency in our report that is addressed in the board's agenda item. And I will read for the record our response to that the county's general plan substantially complies with the state's 2017 general plan guidelines, which includes information on the construction of a general plan, what mandatory elements need to be included in a general plan, and various recommendations on community engagement. The county's general plan includes all mandatory elements, and the county's engaged in the multi-year community engagement effort. So for benefit of the board, we are coming off the recent adoption of the county's general plan review document in which we engaged in a multi-year, over 35 community events to engage the public. Our general plan obviously contains and includes all the mandatory elements. I would remind the board that the development of our general plan included participation by the State Department or the State Attorney General's Office as it relates to assisting in developing our environmental justice element, and our safety element was approved by the State Fire Marshal as required. And then the writer also indicates that our reporting is not adequate, that we do not report on every single program in our general plan, and I think he's taking issue also with the information contained there. I will say that the state gives the cities and counties broad discretion as to what is included and how each jurisdiction reports on the activities of its general plan. We have reviewed the state's guidelines for preparation of the annual report, and we believe we are substantially compliant with that guideline. And you will find that given the volume of our general plan and programs, especially because we just recently adopted, there may be years where there is no activity on given programs. So we're trying to streamline our report to focus on those programs where we do have activity, and that's reflected in the annual report before you today. So with that, staff recommends that your board accept the report and authorize the department to submit it to the state as required. And I'm certainly available, along with my staff, to answer any questions your board may have.
Okay, any questions from the board? Go ahead.
Just had a quick question. You mentioned that the State Attorney General's Office, did they sign off on our plan, or were they just consulted on the environmental justice component?
They did not sign off, but we engaged in a multi-month process where We had multiple meetings with the state Attorney General's office. They commented and made recommendations on the development of our environmental justice policies. And probably the most critical part is they did not comment on our general plan when it was circulated for public review.
There was like no issues or anything that they flagged for us during that.
That is correct. And because of that advanced work, I think what led to them basically not taking a position on our general plan.
All right, thank you. It's only quick.
Any other questions?
Bernard, one question. This is just kind of a burr in my saddle. City of Fresno still have a lawsuit against our general plan?
To my knowledge, yes.
All right. I'd love for that to be dropped. Thank you.
Two new boys about that.
Any other questions? I'll open this up to public comment.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman,
Morning,
members of the
Radley.
board. My name is Radley Reep. I reside at 557 West Escalon in Clovis, and I am the gentleman who sent in the 52-page letter that I hope you've been able to see. What Mr. Jimenez has said was mostly correct. It is true that the general plan was updated or greatly revised back in 2024, where you removed a lot of programs from the general plan that were no longer needed, you were unable to do, or for some reasons did not want to do. So you should have had a pretty good fresh start with this particular annual progress report. And so I was greatly dismayed to see that it was not really a great report at all. I thought maybe you would shine this time and say, okay, we can now absolutely do a good job. Mr. Jimenez is correct when he says the report is deficient. I believe that was his word. The fact that you've written something into your staff report explaining the deficiency does not correct the report. The report is still deficient. And by the way, I'm pleased that you said that. That's the first time in 10 years that I've told you it's deficient every year, and you've gone ahead and kind of denied it. But now we have actually a comment from your staff that the report is deficient. What you're going to do about that, I don't know. I would suggest you simply add the information into it that you need. But I want to appreciate the fact that for the first time I heard some honesty about that from county staff. So what I found when I took a look at the plan, the report, is that I couldn't find information I wanted, and that's because you're doing selective reporting this year. So I didn't know what was not being reported on. So I had to create my own chart. It took hours and hours and hours to go back through and figure out what was missing. And what I discovered was there's almost no reporting on two elements in your general plan, on the public facilities and services element and the open space and conservation element. Why you would want a report that does not report on those two elements, I have no idea. But that is bad form. I've never seen anything as bad as that. This is a report on your entire general plan, not just parts of it. And if they're saying that they took no activity on it, that needs to be in there. Explain clearly what is wrong with those two programs and those elements that you're not able to complete what you need to do. And lastly, many of the responses are not on point. I've explained this very clearly. If the program says you're supposed to do this, then the report should be whether you did it or not. It's that simple. And so I was really hoping for something great this year, and I got the worst report I've seen yet. So that's the story. It's up to you to fix it, and I appreciate it if you would. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else want to speak on this? Well, if not, I'll bring it back to the board.
So, quick comment for Bernard. What specifically was being referred to that was deficient?
Yeah, so what I mentioned was there in the general plan, in the annual report guidelines that are prepared by the state, produced by the state, there is a provision in there which requires each jurisdiction to provide a determination on the degree in which the general plan complies with the state's 2017 general plan guidelines. And I might add that 2017 is 8 years ago. There's a lot that has changed in state law that is not addressed in the 2017 guidelines. and they are guidelines. They give recommendations. There is a section on statutory requirements, which we obviously comply with, and then everything else that follows are a series of recommendations and best practices for development of general plans. And so we've looked at that, and as I mentioned, we think we substantially complied with those guidelines because of the amount of effort that was undertaken to develop our general plan. And I might add that our general plan has been consistently submitted to the state, and never have we heard back from the state that either our plan was deficient or needed to be addressed in additional information included in any manner. So the state has always accepted our plan.
And to County Council, your office had an opportunity to review this. You feel that it's a defensible document?
We do.
All right. With that, I'll make a motion to approve the report.
Okay, got a second? All in favor, so going to say an aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
We now move to item number 14, Board of Supervisor Committee reports and comments.
Okay, we'll start with you, Luis. You have any? Nathan?
Well, I had an opportunity to preach to a men's group last night, LifeBridge Church, and just want to give that church a shout out. I considered it a high honor to be able to share how God is able to take the messes in our life and to create a message that can impact others. So I felt blessed and really enjoyed that opportunity.
Okay, Gary? Okay. I just have coming up, I have a CSAC Board of Directors Executive Committee meeting on the 2nd of April, and those are all very interesting because the makeup of CSAC is a little different than the County of Fresno. So it's always an interesting deal. Okay, we'll move to board appointments. Do you have any?
Chairman, I have one to the Foster Care Standards and Oversight Committee. I was inspired by the call for more appointments. I would like to reappoint Pamela Hancock to the District 5 seat, which expired on 1/6/2025.
Okay, Gary?
Mr. Chairman, Diane Sharold, the Historical Landmarks and Records Advisory Commission, and David Borshot, the Planning Commission.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to reappoint John Valdez to the Housing Authority of Fresno County for a term ending February 1, 2029. And for Supervisor Magsig, in cooperation with the City of Fresno, I would like to jointly appoint Christina Garza to the Workforce Development Board for the Joint Economic Development, Government, and Community Development seat that we have to agree on with the City of Fresno, replacing Shelley Tarver for a term ending November 1, 2025.
Okay, I have none. Is there any public comment on these appointments? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay. Second. Got a second? All in favor, so I say an aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Now we'll move to public presentation. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address this board on any matter not on the agenda but is under our jurisdiction.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Mary Helen Lopez. I live in the city of Kerman in the Fresno County in the state of California in the U.S. I'm here to address a lot of things, especially the Border Patrol and immigrants. Well, actually, it is, you're aware of this, that man that's in the D.C., Washington, he's cutting everything. He's cutting everything that's out there. And it's worrisome about Medi-Cal, the veterans, the immigrants, the way they're treated. You know, it's not even that, because when you cross the border, it's an infraction. It's a misdemeanor. It's not really a law. Not really, you're breaking it. I remember when we had Bracero camps. We needed them because the servicemen were in the service. When you need your neighbor, you can bring your neighbor, but let's cause problems with Canada. Oh yeah, let's cause problems with Mexico. I'm asking you, the Board of Supervisors that are sitting up here, that put their hand on the Bible. It's the least of the least. Them that have and those that don't. Bring the ones that don't have up in front. Mr. Church. Let me tell you, I am so upset with that man that's in D.C., Washington. And anyway, you guys put your hand on the Bible, and you swore to the Constitution, we the people. And there's a Constitution here in California. You put your hand on that, and you said that you were going to live up to it. Well, I'm putting it up to you. Get up off your you-know-whats, and get up there and get rid of that man for all of us, all the people that are here. How dare you treat people and let people sending the bombs, laughing about it, killing people? That man needs to get out of there. Thank you very much.
No clapping. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chairman, and good afternoon, board members. We're here to speak on our brother, our friend, Dr. Oliver Ezenwogo. The Nigerian community came here asking for a resolution to approve his life and all that he did. He passed away about a month ago, and we're just asking that his life be honored. We thought there was something for him today, but apparently not, sir. And I'm here with his son, Sean, and Mr. Brian Ezenwogo, and the wife is also seated here with us.
And so I would like to read the resolution that was meant to be read earlier today. I'm here to present on behalf of my father, Dr. Oliver Ezenwogo. A resolution was put in the consent agenda to honor the life of Dr. Oliver Ezenwogo under Supervisor Redfeld, but it wasn't pulled. So I'll be reading the resolution as written on his plaque. Whereas Dr. Oliver Ezenwogo was the first son of Mr. Sidney and Mrs. Nora Ezenwogo of Inewe Umuabi, Udi, Enugu State of Nigeria. And whereas Dr. Oliver Ezenwogo arrived in Fresno, California on August 29, 1981 to pursue advanced studies that culminated in a PhD in psychology. And whereas Dr. Oliver Ezenwogo was a multifaceted, successful businessman of the renowned Ezenwogo Medical Group and subsets. And whereas Dr. Oliver Ezenwogo was a loving family man, a philanthropist, youth mentor, substance abuse and domestic violence counselor and servant, leader of the Igbo Association of Central California. And whereas Dr. Oliver Ezenwogo was a patron of Umuada Igbo, sponsored yearly Christmas parties for grandmothers, touched lives at Umuabi Udi, and was generous to all. Dr. Oliver Ezenwogo impacted many lives, as you can see from the people behind me. We encourage Fresno citizens to join in bidding Dr. Oliver Ezenwogo a resounding farewell. At this time, we were hoping to get a plaque presented to him and get pictures at the front. If that's not available, we will simply take pictures outside, but we wanted to present that to you, and thank you for your time. Any questions from the board?
No, you can come up and take a picture with us.
Got approved on consent.
Yeah, so
That
your
was
item was
approved.
approved on consent, and when the chairman asks if anyone in the public wants to speak, that was an opportunity for you to have that item pulled.
But we're going to let you come up.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We can do it. Let's go.
That way I can get everybody.
All right, here we go. All right, on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
All right. Another one here on 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. Oh, 2. Alrighty, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. On 3, up here on 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you. Make sure you get your phones back. You're very welcome. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, you can open it up for closed session.
No, there's still people
Oh,
wanting to
sorry.
talk. Yeah, go
My
ahead.
apologies.
Thank you. Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Jonathan Vang. I am part of the 4th Cohort Ambassador Program of California Environmental Voters Education Fund. California Environmental Voters Education Fund is an organization that is fighting for equity and justice for all Californians, from voting rights to clean air and water. The Ambassador Program was created in response to these efforts, and through those years cultivated and supported young leaders from marginalized communities, in addition to having expanded to the Inland Empire and the Sierra Nevada region. As this Ambassador Program was developing, the 2nd Cohort created a campaign known as the We Can campaign, which is to mobilize youths ages 18 to 25 in California to take action on climate change through civic engagement, advocacy, and organizing. As the 4th Cohort, we are further developing this campaign to empower our youth with the introduction of the Youth Climate Commission. We are here to inform the supervisors of this cohort's endeavor to establish a Youth Climate Commission. The Youth Climate Commission will be an advisory organization made of young people that will allow the youth to advise local governments on environmental policy. The youth, as we know, are the future, and as such, should have their voices heard, especially regarding the environment. Establishing a Youth Climate Commission will provide the youth with the tools necessary to protect the future that they have to live in. As a youth in the Central Valley, my family and I have faced environmental issues that vary from extreme heat and air pollution. It has reached a point where we have normalized abnormal weather and air pollution. I am now concerned about my nephews' and nieces' future, since the abnormality of the situation has become normal, without any significant movement towards addressing climate change and the environmental regional issues that we face. I, just like everyone, experience the extreme heat that our region has to offer, especially in the time of summer. Our summers have been getting hotter and more intense. There are potential arguments that the heat only affects or impacts our summer, and is only one season of the year. Therefore, why should it matter? However, we must acknowledge that it does not only impact our summer, it impacts everyone and everything. Our winter seasons have also gotten warmer. Just this year, we have seen in the winter season, we have seen the Los Angeles wildfires. We have seen the pain, the fear, the urgency that this situation has caused. Are we going to wait until another abnormal situation occurs? Because at that point, it may be too late. We are asking the supervisors to support our endeavor to establish a Youth Climate Commission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Derv. I am also a part of the We Can campaign with California Environmental Voters. I'm here today to ask for your support to help us create the youth-led climate commission in the Fresno County. I come from a family of refugees whose my parents and generations before them had also left their home because of war, violence, and deforestation. When they came to the state here, they didn't speak the language and faced many challenges. But they worked hard, especially in the fields. They gave us a better life. My parents became farmers here in the Central Valley. They worked under hot sun, using pesticides and chemicals that they were told were safe, but they didn't know the risk. Now we understand that those chemicals can cause serious long-term health, and unfortunately, my family isn't one of them. My family, like many families like mine, are still dealing with long-term health impacts and those long-term exposures. This is a bigger issue for our communities and communities like mine, immigrants, low-income, Black and brown neighborhoods. We are often the first to be hurt by pollutions and environmental challenges, and the last to be listed when it comes to decisions making. This is why the youth-led climate commissions matter. Young people like me care deeply about our community and the environment we live in. We're not just passionate, we're directly impacted. We want to be part of these conversations, to listen, learn, and work with alongside with leaders like you to create thoughtful, lasting solutions. This isn't just about the environment, it's about fairness, health, and helping the next generation to lead. Thank you for your time. We look forward to working together to make this vision a reality.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak for public comment in open session? Okay, thank you. I'll close that. Is there anybody that wants to speak on anything in closed session? Hearing none. County Council.
Mr. Chairman, we do not anticipate any announcements out of closed session, so if the board chooses, it may adjourn following closed session.
Okay, thank you. With that, someone to make a motion to adjourn then to closed session? Second? Second. All in favor, someone saying aye? Any opposed? Hearing none? We're going into closed session. Thank you.